According to available data on the internet, divorce in Africa is on the increase. On today's episode of The Counselor, we'll be considering what divorce is and its possible causes. My name is Blessing Adikule. Here we have people who we have interviewed, who will enlighten us on divorce and its possible causes. To begin with, what is divorce?
Divorce in marriage, generally, because we are not distinguishing now as to the kind of marriage, is the termination of the marriage, bringing the marriage to an end while the parties to the marriage are still alive. That is, the husband and the wife bring the marriage to an end during the lifetime of the marriage, of the parties. This can be done either by the act of the parties or by the act of a state institution or some other method that is allowed for bringing the marriage to an end. The distinction we will draw later will be as to the kind of marriage. The procedures depend on the kind of marriage, whether it is Christian, whether it is non-Christian. But basically, that is the meaning of divorce. Willingly, voluntarily, and not involuntarily, by the acts of the parties involved.
Yeah, good to say family is involved, and family issues are very sensitive. When you say divorce, it starts with division of voices. When couple no longer have the same time of mind, they are not speaking the same thing. One is speaking towards Maiduguri, the other is speaking towards Lagos. They are not having the same focus. And division of voices, we can relate it in Genesis 11. What happened? They were in one accord and they were having everything they wanted to do until God said, let us divide them. And when they have division of voices, everything that they are able to do began to crumble, so to say. So divorce is when there is no focus in the family between the husband and wife. But divorce strictly is a legal process that can end a marriage. It can dissolve marriage. It can dissolve the social bond between the two of them. And divorce in Old Testament is strictly, men's affair. If your wife do anything that you don't feel like you enjoy it, you can give her a bill of divorcement. That is in the Old Testament in the time of Moses. He permitted them to do that. Just put a writing, I divorce you. So they have a lot of issues in the Old Testament because of the tradition that they follow.
Divorce, as I understand it, is the severance of a contract between two persons who previously had gone into a contract of marriage. Divorce, for me, must have a legal connotation. There must be a way of severing that bond between two married people. Once that means is achieved, it means their marriage has broken down. Sometimes they say if a relationship has broken down irretrievably, then a divorce is imminent.
Divorce is an actual legal process couples get into to the solution or towards the solution of a marriage relationship.
Divorce, it has been a very serious issue in marriage, in the sense that nobody wants to talk about divorce because it's not a good thing. It's not a good omen. People don't want to discuss it, but yet it's living with us, so we have to talk about it. Anytime you talk about divorce in marriage, it has to do with legality behind a man and a woman saying, I don't do again. But previously they say, I do. But now, a legal aspect of it, for you to say, I don't do, that one is legal. It has to be legalized. One thing about divorce is that divorce is not something like personal decision. A girl, a lady, or a man can decide to marry a lady. Personal decision. But when it comes to divorce, divorce is not personal decision. There is aspect of legality involved in divorce. If it is in the ancient tradition, they still have their own legal system. They have some group that are in charge of taking decision for the community, final decision for the community. Most rural villages, they still have such legal groups. As a married man, you cannot wake up overnight and divorce your wife. There is a process, and that process must be fulfilled. If that process is not fulfilled, it's not followed, divorce is not perfected.
When a couple fall apart, sometimes they say they are not divorced. Rather, they say they are separated. Let's hear what separation is in marriage.
I must be candid with you. For me, I sincerely did not grow up hearing about separation. I became an adult before hearing that there is a separation. I've always thought that separation was just a grammatical expression of people, going apart. Your brother, you have been separated from your brother, he's traveling, and all that. That's the sense in which I had previously seen separation. These days, I now see separation as a lexicon which is implanted into marriage, and I find it strange. But I have been forced to understand it to mean when the marriage has not been separated through divorce. Perhaps the two persons decided to just live apart for some time and see what can come of their relationship, if they can go and cool off a little bit and then come back together. That is what I understand by separation. I also have come to understand that married couples who are having problems with their relationship and think that divorce is not an option for them, and yet they don't see themselves cohabiting properly the way a husband and a wife should cohabit, are the ones who have designed this idea of separation so that each person will go and live apart and think about that relationship again. But it goes just more than, that's why I really don't understand it. It goes far more than just living apart. If any of the spouses decides to have a relationship outside that separation, that separated marriage, what do you call it? If a man is separated from his wife, they don't want to divorce, for how long would they separate? And can there be intercourse with other external partners? What becomes of the vow of the marriage? That's why I find it really very difficult to understand it as an acceptable means of settling quarrels or misunderstandings between married couples. But I have just given you my understanding of what separation is.
So separation is a situation where a couple decides to go on their separate ways. Just like divorce is a legal separation whereby people have dissolved the marriage completely. Separation is a situation where couples decide to just go on their separate ways for a time being. It is not a concluded divorce yet. They decide to go on their separate ways, either for the purpose of rethinking things through, trying to heal themselves, trying to decide on what next to do, either for the purpose of safety or to have a time to themselves to think or to pray, or to recheck things, to reevaluate things in their relationship, in their marriage.
Now, it is good that you distinguish divorce, which in legal terms is referred to as dissolution of marriage, from separation. Separation is a smaller degree and is frequently a step towards ultimate divorce, yes, or dissolution of the marriage. It is a lesser degree of apartness than dissolution of marriage or divorce, because in divorce, the separation is final. Is final. Whereas in separation, the separation as such may or may not be final, depending on the acts of the parties. This is very, very important, both from the legal perspective and from the social perspective. If the parties are divorced, there are consequences, such as it will affect things like inheritance, it will affect things like right to further marry, and so many other things like that. But if they are merely separated, then it is as if the parties are just suspending part of their relationship for the time being. So the physical aspect of the marriage is suspended. That is living together, sleeping together, sharing life together is suspended because they are living apart. But in divorce, it is not suspended, it is brought to a complete end. Now, where it is merely a suspension, as in separation, the rights of the parties are still in place. So, for instance, if a wife was separated from her husband and not divorced, there will be an issue. Suppose the husband dies during that process. You will have issues because some people will think that because of that separation, she will have no right to the estate. But in the eyes of the law, it will not be so because it will still consider the marriage as ongoing. Now, even in the purely Christian perspective, there is a view. I don't want to go into Latin, blah, 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 but the way they put it is this. In divorce, it is separation from the bond of marriage that held the two together. But in separation, it is a separation from bond, that is eating together, table is old English, and from bed, sleeping together. So divorce from the bonds of marriage and divorce from bed and table. So they are different and they have consequences. People who are separated are not necessarily divorced. It must be understood.
Yeah, separation is when spouses stop living together in harmony. They can be under the same roof. I've seen a situation where a man will text the wife, "I am going out." And also the wife will say bye-bye on text. Separation has started happening gradually. And there was a scenario, a man wanted to go for an interview. The wife and the husband, they were not in the talking time. They are getting into separation area. He just wrote a note, put it by the bed. By the time it is 5 a.m., kindly wake me up. And the wife also writes, it is 5 a.m., wake up. There was no talking. And the man messed up and he could not go for the interview. So separation is when they stop living together in harmony, but they are not divorced. They just stop living together. So it's an initial step that can lead to divorce, actually. So Paul talks about separation in terms of believing and the unbelieving man or woman. So some people can turn separation back to back. They can lead to divorce. Then sometimes separation for a while can also bring them back under the guidance of God if they pray.
Separation, divorce. Separation, divorce. Two of them are two different things. In marriage, separation is a state of living apart among couples. A situation where a married man is living differently from the wife, or the wife is living differently from the husband, yet they are still married because divorce has not taken place. Separation is a time frame. It's a space. It's a time. It's a period. It's a condition of marriage whereby the people are not living together. The husband and the wife, probably where children are involved, the husband, the wife, and the children, they are not living as a family unit. But they are living apart. Somebody is living somewhere, the other person is living the other place. Yet, they are not yet divorced. And in that situation, in that time, a lady that is married but living apart from the husband, she is not permitted to marry another man because she is not yet divorced. Such goes to the man that is separated from the wife. As long as the divorce has not been perfected, if it is only separation, the man is not permitted to marry another wife. You are only living apart, yet you are married. Living apart, yet married. That is separation.